Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders, from physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance. We leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey everybody, welcome to Friends in Recovery podcast, Answering the Call. I am Mike Miles, the Podfather.
And I'm Jersey Ed.
How are you, Ed?
Pretty good. How are you, Mike?
Good. It's nice to be here. We're going to have a busy show.
Yeah, I think so. Just you and me.
Just you and I.
Can you handle that?
Well, it's not easy being with you.
Do you know anything about first responders?
I always like having people between us, but...
Yeah, I know. It keeps us... Well, does that when does that restraining order go into effect? Does that happen soon? Or was that the Beach Boys, I think, that had a restraining order against each other on stage? And one had to be one on one side of the stage. But they still want to fucking make the money, of course.
Of course.
But they hated each other's guts. So it's kind of like us.
Yeah, exactly. Except there's no money.
There's no money.
There
and
is
we
cigars,
love each other.
though.
There's cigars, yeah.
Right.
So if you guys are listening out there in ATC country, light up your cigar. ATC stands for Answering the Call, of course.
Oh, is that what that is?
It is.
Acronym? ATC, Answering the Call?
It sounds cool.
Yep.
It
You have
sounds
some you have
got some
business
business. Yeah, of course. I always got business, yeah. And then we'll talk about these lovely shirts that we're wearing, and we'll explain them in a minute for you folks who aren't watching. We'd like to thank Genesis House for setting up this lovely studio. Oh, what studio is this?
It's the Sweet Studio.
Yeah, Sweet Studio.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You didn't
right?
know?
No.
Hey, Sweets.
Hey, Sweets, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
We put business before Sweets. That's not good.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do all the editing.
You
so
do. You do.
I'll edit you right out of this.
So this will be at the beginning of the show now.
He'll have you talking like Mickey Mouse again.
That's right. Well, of course, we want to thank Genesis House for and the First Responders program down at Genesis House for sponsoring the show and keeping us alive and going and able to do podcasts every week. And it's just wonderful. We want to thank Dr. Phil Ballone for helping all our officers down at Genesis House. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit with him.
Great guy.
Yeah, and I actually did a group with him.
Right.
And I sat in with his officers, and I'm not a first responder, but it was very interesting. And Phil is wonderful down there. So if you have any questions about Phil, get a hold of us. You see the information running across the screen. If not, we'll have in the show notes how to get a hold of everybody. But again, thanking Genesis House and Taylor and everybody down there. Also for Melissa for putting a lot of this stuff together. I know she works very hard in getting this together, and we'd like to thank her too. And one thing, guys, we are powered by your likes, follows, and subscribes and shares. That's important that you guys do that when you see all these things coming up. Please like us and follow us. It's really important. Especially follow us on social media and to help get the word out about us. This is a really good show, a good first responder show, helping a lot of you first responders out there to get to kind of understand. I'm hoping we're bringing some good messages across. And also, leave a review. Scroll down at the end of your podcast and leave us a 5-star review, and that'll get the word out even more. It'll beef up our visibility. Is that the podcast wording?
Yeah, well, people will recognize the podcast. They'll see more of it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to be a speaker or tell your story on Friends in Recovery. Well, no, answering the call. Feel free to drop us a message on our Facebook page at what's our Facebook page? It's Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast.
Help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com is the email.
Email, yes.
Right, and that's where people can communicate.
Yeah, well, I'm not a for all you first responders out there, I am not.
You're not the email guy.
I am not the email guy, nor am I the Facebook guy. So, but I think it's help at First Responders Podcast.
That's the email. We'll make sure that the Facebook page is in the show notes.
Yeah, just just look at the
Scroll
show
down.
notes.
Check the show notes.
Scroll down. Yeah, don't listen to me. I have no idea what I'm saying here. They just listen, guys. They just want me on here for my good looks. That's the only reason why they want me on here. So, anyways, I want to give you guys a podcast pick of the week, and this is a really good friend of mine. It has to do with serial killers. So, you know, I just figured I'd kind of throw it out there. So, John Kelly Profiler, it's called. He's only on YouTube. He's a serial killer profile. John also had a series on A&E called Dark Minds. And if you guys can Google Dark Minds and take a look at it, he did a lot of profiling for the FBI, some the Green River Killer. I don't know if you remember the Green River Killer, and I think it's in Washington.
Washington State.
Yep. He did some profiling for them, and he gets called every once in a while to do profiling. So it's called John Kelly Profiler, YouTube only, and John Kelly is the host. The one thing I like about this one is sometimes they're really short, anywhere 3 to 7 minutes, and he leaves you wanting more. So you keep I keep scrolling back. When's he going to put another one? He does them almost every other day. He's on there. So, John, we love you, and keep up all the good work. You're funding some of them fucking scumbags out there. So, back to you in the studio, Mike. Oh no! Hold on 1 second. I got a patch today. Those patches are coming in. Make sure you send in your patches to us. Your department patches. I'm holding up, if you can see it, and I'm sure Mike will do something with this in production and make you can see it. Excuse me. So it's Scotts County Sheriff's Department in Kentucky. So I want to thank them, and we're also wearing shirts from the Scotts County Sheriff's Department. It says 217. So 217 is Officer Jamie Morales' badge number. Jamie was shot in a I think it was a bank robbery. I think it was last year, and he was completely paralyzed. And I bought a few of these shirts so we can wear them and support him and his family. And so again, it's if you want to kind of go find his cause, it's Scotts County Sheriff's Department in Kentucky, and Jamie Morales is the person out there. So guys, this is going to go on the Wall of Heroes, and we thank you for your service. We thank you for everything you do for us out there. Without you, this country wouldn't be the way it is. So, and you too, Mike.
Thank you.
And sweet you too, if you did something for us.
He's doing something for us now.
He is. He's getting a show out to all the first responders.
You know, you talked about John Kelly being a profiler. There was a FBI profiler. He's one of the originals. His name was Dr. James Reese. He recently passed away 2018. Dr. Reese spoke at a convention we had back in 1988 in Massachusetts. We had it was an awareness, almost like for a mental health awareness, substance abuse awareness, and it was for police, mostly for police. And we had about 160 participants from the, nationwide. And Dr. James Reese was the keynote speaker. And Dr. James Reese was probably without a doubt one of the smartest men I ever met. He was an FBI agent, one of the original profilers. And if you're a police officer out there, or EMS worker, or even a fireman, I mean, if you want to read about what society in general, how they perceive us, Google Dr. James Reese. And he has an article called Policing a Violent Society. And it's so interesting. And this was written back in the 70s. But, boy, it's right up to snuff. As we all know, police work really doesn't change. We do go out and catch bad guys. However, the tools and they give us to work and just society in general, it does change. And policing is a lot different now than it was years ago, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Ed and I were talking before the show about the...
Well, real quick, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know we have a topic we want to talk about, but since we're going on this profile thing, how important was it to your department, a profiler, and did you guys ever use one? I know that's more of a detective work, I'm guessing, but I'm sure you heard or came across profilers or...
No, we had some really good detectives in Lowell. I can think of one doctor. He wasn't a doctor. James Safaris, although he was smart as he could have been a PhD. Jimmy Safaris. He was a original Marine at Iwo Jima. He was there on that battle, and I had a lot of respect for him. But he was a profiler without the name. He could take a footprint. He could come into a crime scene, and the most minute piece of evidence that you might even overlook, he would take it, and he would find a suspect. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's an art in and of itself, profiling, and it's a lot different when you're looking for murderers but even when you're looking for bad guys, if you're working in a city or a town, sometimes the same MO, modus operandi, is that can be one individual doing things, and if you have had a brush with them in the past or her in the past, you'd remember. So yeah, profiling does happen in criminal justice work, but I think your guy John Kelly and
it's a different
huge
world, right?
Yeah,
the serial killer
definitely.
profiling. Now, what was the girl that got killed? What was her name in Massachusetts at the lake? They killed her. Bishop. What was her name?
Her name was Molly Bish.
Molly Bish.
Right.
John actually helped work on that case.
Is that
too.
right?
Do you
Yeah.
remember that case?
Oh, of course I do.
That was like huge, and I don't think that murder was ever solved, if I'm not correct.
Well, it wasn't solved, conventionally solved, but they have an idea who the murderer is. Unfortunately, I can't think of his name. He's been in and out of jail. They kind of had him in the area at the same time. It took a long time, and it's very sad because that girl, she was a lifeguard at a pool. She got dropped off early in the morning by her mother and never seen again.
That's so
sad. It's horrible. And they did find skeletal remains, years later. And she was from Massachusetts. Very difficult.
Yeah.
And speaking about police work, lately, I was saying earlier, 5 police officers have been killed in the last several days, and it's just horrible. It's like I think there's 43 or 44 police officers killed this year, and a direct result of being shot or run over or being hurt. And I just think society in general is looking at police differently. And there's not a lot of respect. And when you saw what happened this summer in New York with the cops being doused with water, and the police officers not even responding to that, I mean, that would have never happened back in the day.
Nope.
If someone dumped a bucket of water on your head, they would have gone to jail.
Yeah, but they can't. They can't do anything.
Not in that city. It's unfortunate. Not in that city.
Nope.
But for my brother and sisters, officers out there, everyone used to say, "Hey, be careful out there." It goes in one ear and out the other because it's just a job. You don't look at it like you're going to get shot or you're going to get hit or someone's going to attack you. But as we know, society's changing. These body cameras the cops are wearing in some cities and towns, I think it's twofold, good and bad. I see it as a good thing. I'm an old man now, but when I was a young cop, I would not want to have had those on me. But nowadays, I think you do need it because it
to
gives
protect the cop.
Yeah,
at this point.
It protects you and shows people exactly what you're up against.
Yeah.
I've been in court many times. I've raised my right hand to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, and literally gone on the stand and been 100% truthful. And then you have a defendant get up on the stand who gives the same pledge and just goes off on some story that just didn't happen.
Stupid fucking lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but it's a dangerous world.
Well, that's called saving ass. That's what it's called.
and I think would be remiss if we didn't mention the firefighters that have been killed recently too, in horrific fires, and not just Massachusetts but across the country. And it's a very dangerous job. Cities and towns they pay the public servants a little bit better than they used to get paid, but I don't think people realize that this is a job you can literally walk out the door, kiss your kids and your wife or your kids and your significant other goodbye and never return. Yeah. And society just looks at it like, oh well, move on, and it's we need them. And one more thing I have to say, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, is right now in Massachusetts, they are looking for police officers and firefighters. There's actual billboards because there are people that they don't want to take the job anymore. They've seen how difficult of job this is. They see the high rate of police officers being killed, firefighters dying in fires, and they can't fill the positions in these academies. And that, to me, is a very, very scary place to be in society.
I mean, but I don't have that drive that you guys have, and by no means. And but even if you have that drive now, there's a chance that you can get fired. There's a chance that you can end up in jail if you do something wrong. You know, and you're talking about these body cameras, Mike. I think it's the best thing that could have happened to these guys. I know a lot of these guys don't agree with it, but you know, some of these shootings that happen, you know, the cop shot me for no reason. Yeah, you had a gun, you had this, you had that. Now the body camera is showing it all. You know, it's showing you how it's all going down. You know, I get my firsthand knowledge either from you or some of my first responder friends, but also I watched this show, and I know you guys probably laugh, but I watched this show called Body Cam on what is it? One of the channels, Discovery or whatever. And it's a tough life, man. These guys have to negotiate, talk, and get. I mean, I'd be pulling the trigger the first second somebody walked around the corner. I just couldn't do it, you know. And these guys are in a dangerous situation. You guys out there are in a dangerous situation. You know, you don't know if you're coming out of it, and it's just insane. And I think these body cameras are going to give us a little insight on a couple things, being that the cops are right most of the time. Of course, there's bad apples in every bunch, and there's bad apples in every profession out there. There's bad apples, but I think they're going to find out these cops are more right than wrong, and also I think it's going to be able to train the first responders a little bit better. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for body cam because it protects police officers and society in general gets to see what's going on. And you know, a good lawyer is going to take a cop, put a cop on the stand, and it's going to be about the cop's personal life, his personal L folder. It's not even about the defendant anymore. It's all of a sudden the cop's on the stand trying to justify an arrest, and next thing you know, they have his personnel folder, and they're talking, well, 3 years ago you were late for work. Aren't you somebody who, you know, is tardy all the time? Or, you know, and the jury sitting there listening, they forget why they're there. They're more interested in the cop.
Exactly.
So if you at least have some video, something that's concrete. You know, before there was body cams, there was the show Cops, and I was fortunate enough to be on the show Cops, and I was on it for 14 days. Bob Good was the producer and the cameraman, and he was working for The Amazing Race now, and I had a guy named Kenny Frazier who was the sound guy, and these two guys rode around with me for 12 days in Lowell, and the show aired. It was good, but that was such a hit show because people really want to see it. So I think eventually you're going to see, and like you just said, there's a show body cam. I think it is actual police interaction with the public.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break here, Mike, and we'll talk about your 15 days of fame, and when we come back.
Sure, absolutely. Friends in Recovery answering the call. We'll be right back.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. The First Responder Recovery Program at Genesis House is led by a doctorate-level therapist with direct professional experience as a first responder himself. Treatment modalities focus on psychiatric care, relapse prevention, stress management, and trauma-informed care for PTSD. Learn why their individualized approach makes a difference for first responders. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, welcome back, Friends in Recovery, answering the call, and I am the Podfather, Mike Miles.
And I'm Jersey Ed, not wearing a body camera today.
No, not today, but maybe we should start wearing body
we
cameras
should.
here.
Yeah, because Sweet explains us for a lot of fucking shit, man.
I know.
I didn't break that mug, I swear.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Definitely did.
I need a body camera.
Ate the last cookie in the cookie jar.
I did not, and I didn't use the last cup of coffee in that water either.
Wait, I don't understand why society would not want to have cops have body cameras on them. I can guarantee you, though, lawyers that represent defendants, they're not going to be pleased with body cams because it's going to actually give them less of an opportunity to go after the police officer's testimony than it is to look at something in live feed of his client's actions or her client's actions.
Yeah. It's I think it's good. And again, it takes some of the privacy away from the police officers, but and I don't mean to get on the civilian side of this, which I am the civilian, but the state or the government does pay your paycheck.
Absolutely.
That's number one. And you know what? It just if you're not doing anything wrong, or if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's nothing wrong with it.
That's correct.
And listen, guys, if you have, send us some emails, help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com if you disagree or agree with us, or get on our Facebook page and let's start a dialogue on this. Or here right on Facebook Live. Just let's talk about it. But I think we're going to see, Mike, after all these emails and everything, I think we're going to see that a lot of these guys are probably agreeing with it. I mean,
Well, it's for their own safety, and there have been incidents where police officers have been working alone, stopped a car, been shot, been attacked, by people just jumping out of cars. And again, you saw what happened in New York this summer. It was just water, but there could be anything in those buckets.
Yeah.
There could be dumping
Bleach,
battery acid. You don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I mean, there was a time when people were using hypodermic needle syringes to rob banks and stores, and just people in general just going up and saying, hey, I'll stick you with this, I have AIDS, and you're not going to take the chance, obviously.
Yeah.
But the other thing, what I like about, I think wearing a body camera would be good. It gives you a whole documentation of your evening, of what you're doing and where you're going, and you get into a routine, and sometimes it's good to know that you're being recorded, that you're being accounted for. Like you said, we are paid we're public servants. We're paid by the city or town we work for, and they are entitled to get a full 8 hours of work out of you, and it really would keep you from doing things that normally you might fall into a habit of, maybe taking a nap or taking too long at a store or a restaurant to eat, which really doesn't really happen often. We were never given a lunch hour. We could eat on the run. That was about it. You know.
But in this day and age with all this technology, let's see how many bad guys are caught versus how many or in court how many times it proved the cops right and the bad guys wrong. Before that, let's just roll back to. Remember when cameras were just first put in cop cars, and I remember the big stink about that. Nobody wanted it. The cops didn't want it. Am I correct on that? Do you remember that, Mike?
Sure.
Yeah. So, but now, I mean, look at all the footage that we get out of it. Cars hitting cop cars and getting license plates because they took off, or when the cop pulls somebody over, you see the car racing off, and the license plates on there, and the cops, I'm guessing, accept the cameras in the cars now, right? I mean, is that there's nothing wrong with that?
No, it's been in place for a while.
Yeah,
and to be shot at, to be attacked, to be doing your job just as in a normal pace, a normal cadence, going on a call, knocking on someone's door. Hi, did you call the police? And to have somebody come out and attack you with a knife or a gun or a crowbar or a bat, which happens very frequently. I know a few officers in the city I worked at that had to shoot people, and those people succumbed because they were attacked with a hatchet by one, another one was attacked with a hammer, and they did what they were supposed to do. Now, if they had body cameras on, they would have seen both cases, and they weren't together. They were years apart. The victim, the suspect's home where the call initiated from, there was a party on the phone with the police department. So both of those fatal shootings by the police were actually being recorded on the phone at the police station because someone had called the police about their individuals who was out of control with a knife. One was with a hatchet, and the police were still on the phone. So in those cases, both those cases, there was audio.
Oh, yeah.
There was audio of the yell, put it down, bang, bang, the gun being shot and everything.
Yeah, but if there wasn't audio of that, then it's cop against
crazy cop, racist cop, cop out of control.
Yeah, what if there was a lateness or even some substance abuse in that guy's personnel file, and then they start bringing that up? There you go. The cop, the cop's wrongfully accused somewhere down the road because of his past. And the past doesn't mean what he's doing isn't who he is in the present. He or she is in the present, and I think this is a saving grace for them. And I know some of you guys are not going to agree with this, but it's a saving grace for you guys out there. Do the firefighters wear body cams? Anybody
Not
know
that
that?
I know of, but I really believe that they do have some type of access to that because they go into these horrific scenes.
Good Lord.
Where everything's ablaze.
Yeah.
And, we just lost a couple in Massachusetts. That city of Worcester, they've lost more police firefighters.
Yeah.
Just a horrific, awful,
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that, I can't speak for them, I don't know. But if anyone's out there that is a firefighter in your department, has you wearing a body cam, let us know. Because
absolutely.
I think, obviously, firefighters are an entirely different profession, but they're going into a dangerous situation. These buildings they enter, some of them are blown out old mill buildings that haven't been occupied in years. There's no lighting. There's nothing. They're total darkness. And I just can't imagine.
No.
I can't imagine being in the midst of a fire all around you, and that's what your job is, to put that fire out.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and police officers still have a tough job. I mean, but at least sometimes you guys get to lay the land a little bit more.
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
to understand maybe who that perpetrator is, or that guy who's robbing the bank, or whatever the case may be. If you're in a chase or something, he might be armed, and you have other eyes other places. But these, like you said, these firefighters go in and nothing. They close their eyes, guys out there, and that's what they see most of the time.
Right. And I'm sure our correctional officers that listen to us frequently, they're going to tell you every part of their prison where they work, especially in Massachusetts, there's a video.
Hell yeah.
There's video everywhere. Maybe not in the bathrooms, but there's video everywhere. So they're protected by that. They know that if an inmate is unruly, attacks somebody, and they have to use physical force, they know that that's being recorded somewhere. They have a move team, somebody that's being defiant, won't leave his cell, threatening to hurt people. They have a move team. They gear up. They put on their gear, their body protection, their vests, their helmets, their shields, everything. And then they go in. They ask them verbally several times in whatever language they have to speak to understand, to come out, give it up, surrender. We're going to take you out. And when they don't, they move in and they have to subdue them. And they actually have one person in the move team who videos.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, correct. That person
that
will
I didn't
video.
know.
And my fellow correctional officers my fellow and female correctional officers out there will attest to what I'm saying. And somebody is the video person, and they video the whole incident.
So this has been going on way before body cams.
That's correct.
So you've seen that then when you were a correction officer.
Correct.
Oh, so that's been going on a long time. I think the other thing too is everybody's, Big Brother's watching me. Well, it maybe, but you know what? How much is Big Brother watching you versus how much it's going to save a life or help your cause? What's going on?
Well, I don't want to talk politics, but I'll say this. I know for a fact that there are cameras on every street corner in the city of Lowell, Massachusetts, and those cameras have come in very handy when there's been a horrendous crime. And, people get upset because there's a camera at the red light and, Big Brother's watching me. And I understand that side of the argument. But the other side of the argument is if your son or daughter is kidnapped at an ATM machine, or your son and daughter is robbed, raped, beaten, and you have an opportunity to look at a video, and that's going to help solve the case. I'll tell you one story real quick.
Yeah.
There was a young girl driving home right around the holidays, and she stopped at a red light to cross the road. And it was in an obscure place where normally that red light was always blinking. But somebody had pushed that red light deliberately so she would stop. And when she did, she got attacked. She got punched, thrown across the seat. The perpetrator jumped in the car and drove off, took her to another town, brutally raped her, tried to kill her, threw her out of the car, left her for dead. She came from a very affluent family. Her life was never the same. Her father's life was never the same. And if they had had video cameras, they would have caught this guy. So for the super liberal people that don't want their rights to privacy infringed on, I understand what you're saying. But on the other side of it, if that's your son and daughter, you'd be thrilled. You'd be so glad if
you'd be the first one up there to
Absolutely.
do it. Yeah.
So sometimes Big Brother's not always the enemy.
No. And Big Brother, and I think the stigma goes way back to the Soviet Union when everybody had they had cameras on every corner, and I think that's the stigma comes from that all those years ago, back in the 80s and 70s. I remember in the 80s when I just started kind of understanding things and when I was straight and not high all the time. But you know, everybody hated the cameras. Oh, Soviet Union, the United States is never going to be that. But you know, it's technology. Christ, you guys wouldn't be seeing or hearing us now if it wasn't for fucking cameras. You know, I mean, it's a different world, and why not employ the cameras if it's going to, like you said, help that person's family catch that person who did this, because that person is not going to just do it to one person. They're gonna keep repeating this, offenders. It's gonna keep happening. You know.
I look at somebody like the SEAL teams, Special Forces, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. These special forces are trained to go into the most dangerous situations that they know they might not even come back from. You know, and guess what? They're wearing body cameras. They're recording everything. So I'm taking it as this is a plus if they have an opportunity to be able to document any type of situation you're involved in, especially nowadays. Lawsuits galore. You know, you can't make a move without being sued. You can't speak. If you say the wrong word, all of a sudden you could be a racist. You're a terrorist. You're threatening somebody, and you know. Believe it or not, people actually do lie when they go to court and they get on the stand.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll tell you that the cop said this or the cop did that. And if you have a body cam, it's going to be a much fairer game.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in court.
Absolutely. Sweets, turn off your body cam for a minute, and why don't you chime in on over there?
He just likes filming it.
Yeah, I know.
I do. I enjoy that. I mean, I'm a big fan of, you know, you said it best, Mike. You know, you can't trust people when they get up to the stand to say what actually happened. And more importantly, even if they're not lying, there's multiple versions of the truth. There's your truth, there's my truth, there's the side that I saw, the side that you saw, and it's all open to interpretation. And what body cams do, in my opinion, is they put everything into context. You know, I mean, you can't, even if you are the first responder, there's your side of it. You know, you were in fear, you saw this, you felt that, and that's why you responded the way that you did. And I'm sure that in your position it was justified and you feel the way it was, but you know, when you have that evidence, it allows the people who are assessing it to put it into context. You know, there's your side, there's my side, there's all of it. And, you know, I think that's great, especially if you're talking about a court of law, you're talking about justice, you're talking about making sure that people are accountable for what they do. And, you know, so as I was on, what was it, Real Stories of the Highway Patrol, I was the guy driving, as you can imagine.
You were driving a cop car?
No, I was not. No, I was driving a vehicle that was parked on the side of the road, and everybody was doing drugs and dancing on the side of the highway. And the Real Stories of the Highway Patrol pulled up, and you know, we were on camera, but. You know, in that situation, it didn't matter because they just told us to keep it moving. Because you guys are just disturbing everybody. Like, I don't know why you're dancing on the side of the highway. Just keep it moving.
We don't either.
Right. But you know, I think that allowing people who have the opportunity to come in and assess the situation, whether it's a court or whether it's a superior officer or, you know, whatever the review board is, that to be able to put it into context using that video is huge. Yeah, and it puts everybody in a better place.
It does. It puts the truth right side. That's
Absolutely.
What it does. It puts the truth right side, and it keeps everybody in check. So, and you know what? Maybe some of these bad guys aren't going to. Well, I doubt it, but I was going to say maybe some of these bad guys aren't going to lie as much, but they're still going to try to lie to fucking worm their way out of it.
Well, and the courts wouldn't be as crowded because if you know for a fact that you've been recorded doing something illegal and they're going to show it in court, you know, you're not going to go to court and fight it. You're going to plead guilty and plea out and settle this, you know?
Yeah.
And the courts wouldn't be as crowded because we know how crowded the courts are.
Oh, yeah, it's insanely crazy over there. So,
right. Well, listen, this was a good show, Ed.
It was, Mike, yeah. And, you know, I love talking about these topics and really kind of getting into, you know, the police world, the firefighter world, and all that. And I want to remind everybody of the, I got the badge here. The patch here, the Scotts County Sheriff's Department in Kentucky, 217 Officer Morales. Donate to him on his Facebook page, Jamie Morales. Just look him up and donate, or at least give him some words of encouragement. It was great meeting everybody out in the Sheriff's Department out there. They welcomed me.
Right.
You know, I really want to thank those guys a lot.
Right. And I want to give a shout out to Tunnels to Towers. It's an organization that pays for police officers, firemen, EMS people if you die in the line of duty, if you're a soldier and you die, you can contact these people and they'll help you. Sometimes they pay off your mortgage. They came up to this firefighter up in Worcester that died recently, 5 children. There was a soldier that died. He had 5 children. This cop that just got shot in New Jersey, he had 5 children. I mean, think of these poor wives. They're left with 5 children, no husband, no income. Yeah. So Tunnels to Towers, it's a great organization, and it helps everybody. It doesn't matter what your affiliation is, what your nationality is. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
So
Good.
Well, stay safe, everybody.
Yep, stay safe.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for sponsoring the show and supporting our first responders who are struggling with addiction and mental health. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you are interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.